All right, so we've established that Bloodborne is bloody nuts. So these are the good bits. What are the good bits?
Sorry,
Come on.
what was that?
What are the good bits?
What was
Give
that?
me the good bits.
What was that, Gareth Gates?
Wow, what a brilliant... So far, we've referenced the PlayStation Move and Gareth Gates.
And Connect.
Yeah, there we go. I can't wait for your Noel
I
Edmonds.
don't think of anybody else with stutter. It was more recent, but...
There's some guy in Big Brother with Tourette's or something.
He was also singing Daphne and Celeste earlier. I mean, hardly with the times.
Are you asking me?
Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm opening it up to the group. Good bits.
Well, I kind of think on that last point when I said about that first day I played it, next day I was just
social,
almost obsessed with it. It became it became this kind of thing that dying became the obsession. Not like I wanted to die, but
None of us want to die.
No one wants to die. No one wants to die. But the rewarding elements of the game are incredible. There's no other game I've played that's been this rewarding.
It's risk reward massively, isn't
it?
But you were saying that you're not really like mad for like hard games either.
I
Before.
can't stand.
Never really
I
played
absolutely can't stand hard games
because
I'm
kind
just
of a testament, isn't it?
Yeah, because I think I get infuriated by games when they're difficult and I feel like I'm just getting nowhere. And I think a lot of the time it feels less about. I mean, it's usually down to me being crap, but not being crap in the way that I can get necessarily better at the game. So, like, for instance, even Wolfenstein, when we first played Wolfenstein, I had it on a harder difficulty, and then further in the game pulled it back down because I just felt like it's not that I'm bad at this game as such. It's just that's wrong. It's not like I can feel like
You are bad at that game.
Yeah, no, I am bad at the game. Definitely bad at the game, but it's not like I feel I can get better at the game. It feels like the game is just going to keep beating me because I'm not going to get that far. Whereas Bloodborne's got this ability to just teach you to get better at the game.
I think so. I was going to say just to like those games like Wolfenstein and even The Order are they're almost punishingly unfair in a ridiculous way that doesn't make any sense. Whereas Bloodborne is never unfair. It's always you not being as good at it.
Yeah.
Anyway, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I was going to just say what you just said. So,
yay!
Mike's right.
Mike's right.
You heard it here
Got to be a first time.
That's another good bit of Bloodborne. Mike's right.
But the game is, most of my deaths are absolutely fair and they're on me. So every time I die, well, not every time, most of the time
there are one or two instances we'll get on later where it's actually a bit
So yes, stay tuned for the bad parts of Bloodborne. But most of the times I die, I can see where I've gone wrong. Because with this game, it's mainly sort of one-on-one encounters or small groups. It's not like you mentioned Wolfenstein when I throw 20 soldiers at you.
Yeah.
But you can get overpowered. Most of the time, Bloodborne, if you play it, I suppose, wisely, you've got to pick people off slowly and...
They even give you pebbles right at the start of the game, so you can basically throw the pebble at one bad guy and that bad guy comes lumbering up to you.
I actually think it's the beginning of the game that is where it's really testing you because the beginning of the game you've really got to do that, try and lure people away a lot more and pick them off one by one because you just don't really have the power. You haven't learned the sort of dodging in the same way, but because you don't have that power, you are completely relying on that ability to do that kind of stuff.
Also, you can't dodge in the same way at the start because you've not leveled up, so you become a lot more manoeuvrable once you've leveled up.
That's true, yeah, that's true. So, I mean, the first, I don't know how many hours, I'd say maybe 4 hours, I think, took me to get to the first proper boss. And yeah, I found that a real struggle, but not in the way that I ever thought to myself, no, I said I've got to give up on this game. I think it was I didn't do it as 1 4 hour block. I think maybe if I'd done it in a single block, I'd have gone this. So.
Dave,
yeah, write it down. Where was I?
2.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, I would have got
1 per episode.
I would have got to the point where I just thought, no, I can't do this anymore. Can't do it anymore. But because I'd done it in little stages, I think every time I'd done an hour, I felt like I'd got better, and I felt like I'd go a bit further, and it constantly teased me with finding that extra section to get to, and I go, oh, maybe I can get there next, or maybe I can get there next.
So I think we should talk about shortcuts because they're one of the game's brilliant moments.
I was just to go back to that first level, I suppose, that first area.
Yeah.
It is completely unrelenting, and I can imagine a lot of people just switched
evil.
off.
You'd be like, but mummy, you said it was like Devil May Cry. No, son.
But the shortcuts, once you find, so like we said earlier, when you die, you go back to the start effectively. But once you find the shortcuts, you can bypass massive chunks of areas that you've been through before and just skip on to the next section. So I looked at the Metacritic reviews, and a lot of people were complaining about a lack of save points. And the fact that you go back to the start every time, which implies that they missed the shortcuts.
The reason for that is as well is that people don't know what the game is. So it's become, because it was so well publicised by Sony, they backed it massively, which is amazing. And it's brilliant that Sony backed this game.
Fantastic, isn't it?
But it means it opens it up to like a much broader number of people in society. And it's people, like if you're a FIFA or a Call of Duty person, and then you play Bloodborne, you'd be like, what the hell is going on here?
Where's the football?
But it doesn't give you
a pig's head around.
So it gives you no hints, and I kind of love it for this, but it gives you no hints, sadly. It's like totally up to you how you play it, how you go around it. You can run in you can almost get to the end of the game from the start just by running past everything.
Running away is a good fun.
Yeah.
When you find that, you just like, screw this, I'm going. But I think what I quite liked about the thing is when you initially look at it and you go, oh, this is just ridiculous, and you get really angry, and then you sort of later on you go, oh, I can see why. I mean, for like the reason why there was so many the guys have to come back is because that's your only real ticket to upgrading, isn't it? You need the blood. You need to kill them to get the blood echoes, to get better, to come back, and it's almost like the game is saying, right, I'm not going to tell you how to do this. You're going to have to do it, and then when you do it, and you go, oh, okay, you feel clever, and it gives you a little pat on the back and then kicks your ass.
And when you kill that boss, that one boss that's been like killing you. I mean, I must have fought the Bloodstar Beast, which is a very early boss. I must have fought it about 30 times before I beat it. And I could have summoned someone in to help me at that point, but I didn't, because I was like,
I had that with
I need to do it.
Father Gascoigne. Father Gascoigne was kicking my ass every single time, and
Plastic tits.
And it was so annoying because it was like I knew it was a bit.
Paul Gascoigne, it's pretty spry for his age. Actually.
Another 2015 reference.
That would have been great if that's one of his special moves. Get you in.
Sorry, Dave.
That's all right. No, I knew it was a point that I thought I've got to defeat this boss. I cannot go further in this game, and I think it was at those points that I start losing the will a little bit. But every time I still felt like I was getting a little bit further, doing a little bit better. But that moment that I killed him, man, that feeling.
Did you
that
fist
feeling. I high-fived everyone.
The cat, come on!
Yeah, the cat. Yeah,
Get lost.
yeah. No, it was, and I think I've never had that again from boss fights. I'm not a fan of boss fights at all.
No.
But this game gets boss fights, understands how to do that stuff, and I think it does that quite well. So again, like this sort of rewarding nature of it all, or understanding. There's tactics to different bosses, so it's not just a matter of running in there, hitting it as much as you can, running back, going in, hitting as much as you can. There's even things like using certain potions against bosses. Or
Father Gascoigne's a great example because he's got that like music box, which this is not a spoiler, it's quite an early boss, but I didn't even use it. I didn't even realise that this was a moment that you were supposed to use it because the game doesn't properly tell you to use it at that moment. But like, there's you can. I don't know. You used it, didn't you?
Yeah, I had a few goes at.
So I know I had it, but I never used it.
So Father Gascoigne is the first proper boss.
Yeah, so you need to beat him to get further.
So there are bosses before him. I think there's one boss.
Cleric Beast.
Yeah, one boss before him, but he's the first proper boss you need to beat to progress. And there's an item you can get in the game through talking to somebody through a window. So yeah, the person gives you this music box, but doesn't explain much about it.
No.
She says like her mum. Oh no, I think she says something about her father.
Her mum's gone. Her parents have gone missing, and she says this music box used to bring my father home or something. So you go into this fight. You've got this thing in your inventory, but I should imagine most people have just forgotten about it because they're too busy trying to kill Father Gascoigne. But if you're like me and you die a few times at that point, you go to Google and you say, how the heck do I kill Father Gascoigne? And then apparently this music box affects his movements because he is the father that the little girl's looking for. And if you play the music box, it stuns him. He just stops in his tracks and he can get a few whacks in. But that's something that, like we talked about the story earlier on, and the fact that there's no massive long cutscenes, it doesn't explain anything. That's part of a story that you would never know unless you sort of read between the lines or you were paying particular attention. Like you say, you picked up the music box and you didn't know that you could use it on this boss. I thought that was really interesting actually. And so that's really early on. And once I read that, I was hooked in terms of the lore and the story and all the rest of it.
Does the music box play Fog on the Time?
It does. It does. It plays Fog on the Time. It's all mine, all mine.
Fog on the Time is all mine, all mine. But I think that you're completely right, aren't you? I think the sense where, I mean, let's not be around the bush. This is a brutal game, isn't it? It's a brutal game, but it's also incredibly nuanced. There's so much stuff and bits and pieces that, you have to make the effort to find them. And if you don't make the effort to find them, the game will basically leave you out in the dirt, really, isn't it?
There's so much stuff that I don't even know how you would know about it if you didn't look on Google and on chat rooms.
Google game.
It's like it's support groups almost. Like it's like
should have done a voice chat.
It's like Alcoholics Anonymous.
Hello Google, I'm dead again.
But it's like we were saying earlier. This is a game that we were all like WhatsApping each other every day when we were playing.
Constantly.
How do you get here? Who's this bloke? What does this do? And
I found out about one certain boss from you guys long before I ever saw him.
That's through me and Dave whinging about it. And that's really cool because when you think back to the last game we played that had werewolves in it, if you can remember what that game was.
That game was The Order.
The Order, which is basically start here,
Disorder.
go, walk through this corridor, cutscene, next corridor, cutscene. No freedom, nothing to explore. It's all laid on the table. This is a video game. Just go here.
You have a gun, go shoot that thing. Then do a QA.
Exactly.
Well,
this is like the complete opposite. It's the antidote to
QTE.
QTE.
Sorry, I'm talking gibberish over the top of you. Jack!
This is like the antidote to the Order, isn't it? Really, when you think about it.
It's amazing to me that Sony had two games to back in Q1. They had the Order and they had Bloodborne. And they backed them both, but the difference in quality between the two games is absolutely staggering.
One of them is a kind of it's a slip of a game, and one of them is a ridiculous beast of a game, isn't it? Really? And I mean that in the pun. It's ridiculous. It will bite your face off, but also the amount of power and scale it's got compared to that limp thing that we played last. It's just night and day, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, even the world itself as well. It's so incredibly different in all the sections you go to, and it's just so interesting. The whole world is so interesting to go to. I think, and even the environment, like destructible environments and stuff. I love all that stuff. The fact that you can roll around and all the boxes trash and all that kind of. It's just all those little things that I just kind of think that's so great. That's so much fun and. So one of the sort of patched up a lot of the loading times. We'll talk about loading times later. But one of the things that I think the reason why loading times became noticeable was because of the fact that you die quite often. But if you think about what it's loading up is this absolutely humongous world. It's not even like it's just one section it's loading up. It's the whole thing. So if you could go through the whole thing, kill literally everything, and destroy every little barrel and box and stuff. And when you die, it has to then rebuild that whole world again, and then put that back in the same place. It has to remember every shortcut you took, pull the levers and stuff like that. And I just think it was done so well. All of that's done so well.
I think the amazing thing about they obviously reduce the loading times now, which is another good thing we should probably mention. But it's remembering. So there's loads of gates and stuff, and you can have them open or shut, or and you can do all this stuff, and it's every time it's kind of going so you had that gate open, that's letting that guy in there, and then sometimes the bad guys change. They don't really so the established ones are always kind of there, but then occasionally you get these random ones coming in when you get further in the game.
Well, actually, that's insight. So insight affects that stuff.
Okay.
So I was looking into this. So actually, if you go to Cathedral Order, I think if you've got 30 insight or something like that, you then start seeing this big monster attached to the.
I've got that right now.
Yeah. So you wouldn't have seen that without your insight. And
but I thought that came after I killed Mr. Spider Boy.
You probably got more insight from it.
Okay.
I don't know. But there's also the things that are carrying candle holders or whatever they are. They're sort of glowing. They're in a cathedral ward. They're glowing purple guys.
Oh yeah.
On their lanterns, they've now got eyes and things like that. The characters change a little bit with more insight you get. It's all little in-depth stuff like that.
You were saying you can change the hats on the things at some of the
yeah.
Yeah.
One
of the things we haven't talked about is the fact that other players can leave notes. So this has gone all the way back to Demon's Souls, hasn't it? So other players in the real world can leave notes for you. So you could be ambling along, and there'll be a note on the ground. And the way the notes work is you have to click X, I think, to read it. And there's these little skull guys, so like your buddies, and they'll hold up a note. And the note might say something like, danger ahead, or you've got a very...
Sometimes there'll be basically a hole, and it'll kill you if you walk in it. And it goes, take a step. And you're like, cheers for that, guys.
So, I mean, this game is so harsh. Any tips you can get are appreciated.
Yeah.
And it'll say, mostly it says ambush, because that's all you ever do. You get ambush and ambush.
Yeah. But going back to what Dave was saying about the world, and wanting to see what's around the next corner, that is definitely what's kept me going.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate the different enemy designs. If you can think back to Shadow of Mordor, which is basically like one orc.
Good game, that.
You really enjoyed that, didn't you?
One cookie cutter orc replicated.
I'm not even getting into this.
I'm on my soapbox. I will not be pulled down.
It's the Ranger.
That's really good.
So you got one cookie cutter orc, which is replicated across the next 20 hours of the game. But in this game, you go from one area to the next. There's different, unique enemies for each area. I swear there are cases where there's just one enemy design for just one particular area that you don't see anywhere else. And that stuff is awesome. And the enemies are genuinely creepy. When I got to...
it's actually a frightening game, because the sound effects as well. There's few games I actually remember the sound effects of, but this game is... Some of the bosses, they scream and squeal.
Honestly,
it's actually off-putting.
Always say this, but play a game with headphones on. It makes such a difference. I don't always play games with headphones on because it's annoying. But when I first started this game, had headphones on and just come across the first werewolf, even when you're rolling around and just everything's trashing and all that, it's so amazing.
And you can hear them like hacking a lot, like
those bloody first werewolves.
But they remain tricky for even now, however many hours back into the game I am. So when you go back to old areas, you're just ploughing through people and killing them really easily. But those two first werewolves, I still have trouble with them. Because their movement's so erratic.
I'm sorry, I'm really level kind of 70 odd, and they killed me the other day when I was playing it, just because I mistimed one thing and then they just kind of hit you from both sides before you know it.
That comes down to the thing about this game, isn't it? I mean, you sleep for a moment and you get your ass handed to you by this game. It's like patience, concentration. It requires you to be on point pretty much all the time, and we're going into negatives, aren't you? But
we need to. I think time. It is probably time for the negative.
Can I just make one point on that? I started using the beckoning bell a little bit for a couple of the bosses. It's not cheating. It's part of the game. It's
judgment. There's no judgment here, apart from a game.
But
this isn't Alcoholics Anonymous. There is judgment.
So I tell you what, because I did that, I started getting lazy with the way I would approach any enemy, and I started getting killed a lot more. And so I stopped doing that and basically ended up learning the game again in a way. And now I'm much better at it again. But it was amazing how just that kind of trying to rush through it made me crap at the game.
Yeah.
But you take your time, all that kind of stuff really made the difference.
You need to learn the ropes. It's like it demands you learn the ropes, and that's why that first section is there, really, because that teaches you. My main advice for this game is be patient with that first section, because you will come out of it better in the game, and it'll lead you into the next sections. Don't give up at that moment.
I think certainly, and every time you die and come back, you're better. You can cave those guys' heads in a lot easier. You can dodge them. You can see them, and you can smash the crap out of them, and then feel like, haha, take that, you bastard. But it is. Let's not beat around the bush. I'm sure we'll come to the next in a minute, but it is a bit of a challenge.